trust me.
I want to go ahead and just jump into it right now, my friends. I don't want to waste any time just in case the power does indeed get out, which is actually appropriate, chat, because there are several scenes in this episode of The Last of Us in which the power is actually going out. And Glee, thank you so much for the 100 biddies. Got cold here real fast. Yesterday, just that cold front started coming in, Glee. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for the 100 biddies. Hope you're doing very, very well. But chat, yes, I am indeed reviewing The Last of Us episode 3. And like I said, before, for the previous 2 episodes, and even before then, I was not really excited for The Last of Us TV series. I found this adaptation honestly pointless. I was like, why are you doing this? The game is already so cinematic. It's so well written. It's so well acted. It has, these iconic scenes within it. Trying to replicate them. I mean, I'm personally not interested in that. However, after watching, the first 2 episodes, I found things that really did indeed impress me. Especially like when you look at episode 1, how they recreated that opening, but also the thing that has kind of captured my attention the most, the thing that I'm appreciating the most, at least right now for the Last of Us series, is how additive there are, how they're expanding on things that we didn't see originally in the game. And obviously, we've had these 2 great cold opens for episode 1 and episode 2, and where we had the John Hannah coming in the 1960s and talking about the idea of a fungus infection of a type of a parasitic organism that would cause this pandemic, and we would be unable to stop because we just don't have the medical technology handle. I thought that was great. Cold Opening again, which takes place in Indonesia, has been really cool, and there's just been a lot that's worked. Some stuff hasn't for me personally, especially like the last half of episode 1, some CGI, and so I was like, yeah, I could see the budget. But that episode 2 was very strong. You had some great performances, and I like seeing the chemistry between kind of the 3 main actors in that episode. And that brings us now to episode 3, which is adapting the Bill section in the game. Bill, who is this survivor that Joel and Tess have gone to for resources and, help acquiring, a variety of parts they wouldn't be able to acquire from other individuals. And the character of Bill is a bit of a doomsday prepper. And, in that section of the game, you're pretty much helping him get back to his base, and you learn a little bit more about him and his relationship to this character, Frank, who was his lover. What I love about this episode is that it makes huge changes from the original game. And I feel like, anyone who hears that, any person who's a fan of a video game, when they hear a filmmaker or writers are going to make huge changes to parts of a game, we instantly go, oh, we recoil in disgust. Like, we don't want to hear that. It's like, no, why are you doing that? What's the point? And what happened in this situation, the point is that they wanted to truly give a profound amount of depth to characters like Bill and Frank, who we don't even see alive in the original game. Here we see this character alive. And where even though it is focused initially on Ellie and Joel, and I'll get into those details in just a bit, but most of this episode, which is very long, it's pretty much a movie. It's about an hour and 15 minutes, hour 17 minutes. It's focused on their relationship through nearly 2 decades. And I thought that was so great. I thought that was the absolute right choice to change that section in the game, and where you're following these 2 characters and how they come together and fall in love. And it was just beautiful, honestly. And I'm glad they changed it. And it's not nearly as dark as it is in the game. It's very nihilistic, that kind of section in Bill's character and what happens with Frank. Here, it's the complete and total opposite. And it's beautiful, and it's incredibly romantic. But before getting the details of that and Nick Offerman's performance as Bill and Murray Bartlett's performance as Frank, I did want to talk about the opening. You know, this one does not start with a cold opening like last two. I was initially disappointed by that. I was like, oh no, I like these cold openings where we have the thing in the 1960s, and then we're seeing how the rest of the world kind of dealt with it. And you know, in the case of episode 2, we were in Indonesia with the doctor and what her advice was for this and how that played into the rest of the episodes. I thought that was really cool. Here, it's pretty much starts with Joel and Ellie taking place after the events of episode 2, and where, you know, Tess is obviously not with them now due to her sacrifice. And, you know, they're about 20 or so miles outside of Boston, and they go to this this gas station, this pharmacy where Joel and Tess have kept a variety of, you know, supplies. And, you know, we see a lot of the back and forth, the chemistry between Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey. You know, there's still standoffish to each other, but there's a little more warmth now. You know, you're getting a sense of a rapport between them. And whereas you know, my criticism, again, I don't even blame Bella Ramsey. In the first episode, there just wasn't a lot for her to do other than just kind of, you know, be smarmy and yell, you know. They doesn't have anything for her. Episode 2, thought she was a lot better. Here, I think I was like, okay, now I'm really starting to see this. Now I'm really seeing her truly as Ellie, because they're just giving her stuff to do. And she gets a moment in this episode where she encounters something, and how she approaches and handles it, I thought was pretty interesting, pretty cool. It's kind of like the curiosity of a child, but also at the same time, like, they're very aware of like how dangerous this is, but they're still fascinated by it. And how that all works out was pretty cool. It's part of her I think her growth and dealing with the things within this world, you know, especially in regards to the infection. But then the rest of the episode, it kind of, you know, after, you know, they leave, because Joel and Ellie, like, he's like, I'm going to take you to this place with this person. And that person is Bill, played by Nick Offerman. How we transition to that, by the way, where it's so good, because they're looking at something, and I don't even want to say what it is, because it's just like kind of shocking and disturbing, and I think it's really good when you're first just seeing it, you know, for the first time. But then they transition from that moment to a community 20 years earlier in 2003, when the infection was, I mean, just affecting all these different countries around the world, especially the United States. And we're focused on Nick Offerman's Bill, who is I'm a survivalist. By the way, perfect casting with Nick Offerman as the character of Bill. This guy who is pretty much a doomsday prepper, who is like, I don't like the government. I want to associate with them. I want to be self-sufficient. I like hunting. I like guns, but he does have a sense of the soul. I mean, pretty much his character you could almost finish all of Parks and Recreation, just watch it all, and then just watch this episode. It's like, this is what happened to Ron Swanson after, all those years. And yeah, he's perfectly cast. And I have a certain thing, maybe it's a weird thing that I just appreciate, in whether it be in TV shows or novels or just movies, when it's focused on like a survival story. I like when the character just kind of figures like, okay, this is how I'm going to be self-sufficient, how I'm going to survive. And so, he's the situation in the episode, he's pretty much the last person of his community, and he has like free reign to go wherever he wants in his town. And so he's just acquiring all these resources and materials and building supplies, and going to the grocery stores and going to Home Depot and all these other locally owned stores and the winery chat and the boutique. He's getting all these things, and you're just seeing like what his life is like. And despite it's like in the apocalypse, he can still have this just beautifully prepared steak meal with these roasted carrots and asparagus and tomatoes. And it was like, and this wine, which is probably like $100 or something like that. And you kind of see his life. And he's got it figured out. And even how he deals with the infected, it's like, okay, yeah, But then this after living however many years alone, he encounters this man, Frank, played by Matt Bartlett. Obviously he starts out very mistrustful of him because he's been alone for so long. But within the episode, at least that initial section, they bond. And, Frank realizes, and that it's obvious that Bill is gay because Frank is gay too, and it's not I think there is I've noticed it a lot, and especially maybe after seeing like a movie like You People, which has the subtlety of a fucking elephant in a in a convenience store, or a bull in the china shop. This one is just very subtle with how it handles a relationship. It's just that they just happen. Yeah, they're gay. That's what it is. It's not we're going like, oh, and then they're gay. Not there's anything wrong with that. It's like no, they're gay, and they're learning about each other, and you see this relationship over the course of 20 years. All the times when they love each other, they argue with each other, the changes that they go through. And the chemistry between Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett are it's incredible. They do such a great job. You love seeing them together and the way in which they interact. You do see characters from the main line. I mean, the show itself, you see a younger Joel and you see a younger Tess and how they interact with them. It's great. All I'll say is, there's a lot of dinner scenes in this episode, and the dinner scene between Bill, Frank, Joel, and Tess is pretty amusing. It's cute almost. I actually really like it. It's like, it's like couples night, couples date night. Except, Joel and Bill just don't trust each other. And there are a lot of moments in this episode where, for me, I got emotional. I started crying. Chat, and that was the thing. I'm like, can the show actually make me cry? And they kind of made me water right in the first episode of how they handled the opening with Sarah. I thought that was great. Here is like I was crying. I had tears and everything. I think I got water-eyed initially, and then 2 other times I was crying, especially in that last third. It was just handled so well, and I don't know how fans are reacting to this because it's the polar opposite of the game. It's dramatically different. We don't spend nearly as much this time with Bill, and Bill is, he's just like, listen, I've learned how to live to survive, and you're going to have to learn how to survive. This is how it is, and that's what it is, right? Here, no, you see this man's life with this other man, and you see all the trials and tribulations, what they have to deal with, the threats, and how they've just continued to evolve and love each other for 2 decades, and it's handled well. What comes of their arc, in this episode, I think is beautiful and very well handled. I don't really have any criticisms, honestly, of it. They made just the right choices with these characters. They expanded on them. It was additive. That's the things that I think I've liked most about this show so far, is how they've added just all the things that they've added. Hasn't bothered me, and it's just, I think it's improved on the material. It's like Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin and everyone else who's involved in this show. They just looked at that game and they're like, okay. Like, we're going to make changes, but certain sections, at least for these first 3 episodes, how can we expand on this and give these characters just more time to grow and develop? And maybe other characters that were only there for however long, like, how can we really add to them? And I really felt it in this episode. And it was great. Just the last shot, like, I was like, I hope you don't, like, there was one thing, I'm not going to get into spoilers with this, but there's like a moment where I'm like, okay, please, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do what I think you're going to do. And they don't. It's just a very quiet way to end the episode. And then also continue on with Joel and Ellie's journey. But no, Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett do a fantastic job. I could probably see award, for best guest stars. I know, like, various, award, like, Golden Globes or Emmys and stuff. They nominate people for that. And they did a great job. Like I said, I keep repeating myself, but I was incredibly impressed. And, I hope people of the games can kind of go in with an open mind to say, like, hey, at least this big change for this section here, I think it's better. I do. This is probably like the first time where I would say that the show is better than the game for this section. Everything in regards to Bill and Frank. It's just like, yeah. Everything that did in the part of the game was great. It was very good. Here, it's just, yeah, it's infinitely better. And I liked the changes that they made. It didn't bother me at all. It just, that was just some beautiful television right there. That was a great showcase of direction, of writing and acting from the entire cast, but particularly for Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett, chat. So yeah, no, I think this is the strongest episode. It's going to be a tough one to beat, but going forward in the future, it makes me more excited to watch The Last of Us. I want to see what other changes they're going to make, especially with some of these supporting characters. And there's a lot of supporting characters in these games, and characters that we only spend I don't know, about like a few hours with. And so now it's like, okay, I'm gonna see what changes do you want to make? What are you gonna add here now? So I'm very curious. But yeah, I highly recommend episode 3, chat. At this point, again, I always want to hold off on ratings for the entire series until it wraps up. But I mean, it is an individual episode. I mean, I didn't have anything wrong with it. I didn't feel like there's anything wrong with it for me. Yeah, I mean, this is a better than sex on the double toasted scale. This is a 10 out of 10. This is what other live action video game adaptations, especially those who have, serious dramatic material, should kind of live up to. Or it's like, if they want to change something, look at what this show did. And I think they'll be better for it. But yeah, thought it was fantastic.